Morning, everyone. Hi, welcome. I am Claire Venus. I am an engagement consultant and mentor. And today, Sophie and I are doing a little bit of a Pinterest workshop, frequently asked questions, looking at how Pinterest can really work for you as a business, but also as an owner of a Substack publication. So I'm super excited to speak to Sophie. Hi, Sophie.
Hi Claire,
And
how's it going?
would you like to say a little bit about yourself and what you do in the world? I know that you're sort of bridging this gap between maternity leave and coming back to work, and that's how we met.
Been in all the plays as usual. Yeah, so most people might know me from writing Simple and Calm on Substack. But the other side of what I do is I run my own virtual assistant business, and that's how we got talking, wasn't it? How I could help you with your Pinterest and other bits and bobs. And so right now I am on maternity leave. I'm trying to kind of get things built up ready for when I finish maternity leave. And then I can help others. I can just dive straight in then. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I do.
Gorgeous. And Sophie's got a gorgeous Substack. So I think Sophie and I connected in the first place around visuals on Substack, because I think we
Yeah.
were like playing around with like page breaks and we had like a little
Yeah.
chat about all that sort of stuff. And I love Sophie's aesthetic because it literally mirrors our content. Is very calm, very spacious. You just feel like, oh, I'll take a deep breath. Sophie sent a post. So that's really, really nice. And you've got a design background, haven't you, Sophie? Like
Yeah.
you create prints as well and you sell those on Etsy, and there just is something very special about the aesthetic that you've brought to your own publication and how it mirrors what you do there.
Yeah. I love it. I love all the design stuff. I never really got into doing that when I was younger because my background is in nursing. So to go from like nursing to design work
Yeah.
is a massive shift. But I didn't realize I had all of this creativity until I got doing it. And then I was like, oh my God, I love this. I need to do more of it. So I created the prints and then I've just escalated from there. I do everything now.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And for me, because I spend so long trying to make something look the way that I feel like I want it to look. And
Yeah.
even though there are a ton of templates in the world now, like I don't feel like templates are my friend because it's not my creative genius to adapt a template. Whereas working with someone like Sophie just made all of my Pinterest pins for me and they all looked lovely. So I'd had a little play with Pinterest and I had this gorgeous photo that I really liked that had absolutely nothing to do with Substack. And I tried to sort of make my wording quite clear to sort of say, okay, like, here's my Substack. You can go and have a look at it. I'm teaching different bits and I was like, none of it was working. And so I said to Sophie, look, I've tried this, but I feel like there's a real gap in the market. There's not many pins on Pinterest about Substack, and I would really like to change that. I'd like people on Substack to find the blog posts that we all publish primarily, because there's no adverts on Substack. So every time, this is my pet hate with Pinterest, you click on something and then you've got to like siphon through loads of ads. Whereas on Substack, it's lovely and calm. And some of the content lends itself really well to becoming a pin on Pinterest. So I was curious about the space. So I said to Sophie, did you have time to work with me? And in the first instance, it was really just around, okay, I've been teaching on Substack a little while. I've got these YouTube tutorials. I think I had about 10 at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Could we do something with the two things and make them just headline information, pins, try out posting some pins to Pinterest and see what works and what resonates with people and what maybe enables some growth for my Pinterest, but with a focus on growing my Substack and my YouTube, because that's where the information lives. I didn't want to have to replicate loads of information across Pinterest because I knew it wasn't sustainable. I really wanted to move people out of the Pinterest platform to either Substack or YouTube. So we had a bit of a chat about that, and you said, oh, I'll just design you some pins up and we can work together on that, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. And we didn't really, like you said, there wasn't a lot of information about Substack. And if you think about it, because we love Substack as users, but if you talk to anyone else about it outside of the Substack sphere,
Bubble. Yeah.
yeah, it's not really well known. And so
No.
that when we went to Pinterest, I found there weren't any pins on there to teach people how to use Substack or what Substack is. So I thought this is going to be brilliant for Claire because we can really tap into that market. so that's what we did. But Pinterest has always been great for sharing blogs on there for years, but never really Substack.
Yeah.
Because it's still quite new. So yeah, so it would make sense for someone in my situation where I don't teach about Substack. It makes sense for me to go and put my stuff onto Pinterest, because that's what Pinterest has been doing for ages. But for you, it was kind of like a little experiment, because nobody really knows about Substack outside of Substack. So we really need to try and bridge that gap now from what Substack is, bring people over to it.
And maybe we might, as an act of service, do some more pins about what Substack is, just to grow that knowledge, on Pinterest, because I have seen more traction with Pinterest than I ever did on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. So when I first started my Substack 18 months ago, one of the big things was people were saying, make sure you share it on your other platforms. And actually, wasn't really going anywhere. Whereas with Pinterest, the needle moved straight away. People were clicking straight over into YouTube, straight over into Substack. They were curious. And that for me felt like normally you would have to just talk about that for months and months and months before you would see any traction. And actually, we've only been working together 30 days or so. And maybe, I don't know how many pins you made for me in the end, Sophie, but was it maybe about 10, 15 pins, something like that?
Yeah, around that, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of you thinking about the best use of your time as a business owner, as a creative business, or as someone who wants to grow your Substack, in terms of time and energy, I think personally, it's really, really worth learning a bit more about Pinterest, being quite joyful in your experimentation around the platform, just playing around, because like Sophie says, there's nothing on there yet. So I think if we all, and I know lots of people are planning to watch this workshop, if we all kind of gradiate and do a little bit, then it'll snowball back into the platform. New readers will come, new users will come, and it'll benefit us all. So that's really why we wanted to record it today, didn't we, Sophie? We'd had a bit of a chat on notes in Substack and thought, actually, there's lots of creative people that are actually getting a lot of traction on Pinterest with their other stuff, or tried it once but then left it alone, or have a presence there but aren't doing much. So this is a very focused workshop on how Pinterest can work for you and what types of pins to set up and the best way to set them up. Yeah,
and I forget who wrote it on notes.
It was Charlene from Haver and Sparrow. And then we all had our like links in between and stuff.
And she said we need to kind of get more readers over to Substack, because Substack is great for writers, but we just need to get more readers. And using Pinterest, I think that would really, really help to get
I think so, given what's happened with mine and given the interest. And I do think there's something to be said about those blog style posts. And we had a little WhatsApp chat about this, because I'd written this sort of 7 tips to well-being at your workstation last week. And I was like, this is quite Pinterest worthy, isn't it? And Sophie said, yes, this is exactly the type of thing that people would maybe find a beautiful pin about and then click over to read the article. So when writers are thinking, well, how on earth am I going to translate a Pinterest audience or a Pinterest searcher across to Substack, I think that yes, it's new, and yes, we can figure it out together. But what Sophie says around those bloggers having done this for years, they've already been doing it, and it's really obvious where it's that invite in to read more that only would work if you click into something and expand the pin. There are new types of pins around videos that look a little bit like Instagram Reels or Instagram Stories, which Sophie might talk about a little bit. But for me, I'm really thinking about that content that already exists in either Substack or YouTube, and people clicking out of Pinterest to go to it. So yeah.
And that's what Pinterest is, isn't it? If we skip ahead and go into what is Pinterest, because I know that loads of people have been asking this. I think a lot of people go on to Pinterest and think, oh, it's a new thing, we can grow it here. They go to it and they're like, hang on, this is different. This is not like Instagram. This is not like Facebook. And that's because Pinterest is not a social media platform. Pinterest is a search engine, but it's a visual engine, it's a visual search engine. So it's a bit like Google Images. So if you got to imagine, they have like in supermarkets, they have these notice boards, and like people from the local community can go and put like, the plumbing advertisement, or somebody to clean your gutter in, or a local crocheter, whatever. They can go and put their post their advertisement on this board for everyone to come and see.
Yeah.
And that is what Pinterest is like. So if you're looking at this board and you're like, oh, I really need, I don't know, a birthday gift for mum. Let's have a look on the board, type in your search engine into Pinterest search bar, what you're looking for, and all these results will come up and you're like, okay, great, but I like this and I like that and I like this and I like that. So what do I do? Rather than having loads and loads of tabs open and needing to make a decision there and then, what you can do is take that, take this, take that one, save it to your board that you could call, you know, birthday gifts for mum if you wanted. And then you've got it saved in a safe place. And you might then use those for a Christmas gift for mum, or it might go to, do you know what I mean? It's stuff that you can save in one place that you can come back to at a later time. So don't be overwhelmed with Pinterest. It's not as scary as it looks. It's just people creating pins of whatever it is that they sell, their service, or even just a nice quote, you know, it doesn't matter. They share that and then you decide what you do with it. You can either scroll past it or you can save it to a board and use it later on. And that's what it is. It's just organizing pins.
Organizing pins, yeah, and organizing, it's like mood boards, vision boards, ways to save information to refer back to. Like I've used it before to like link to seasonal inspiration. I used to write a lot about the seasons and how the seasons impacted my creativity, and I had a board for every single season and I would just add to it each year. Those have been going sort of 6 years or so, but I didn't until I learned a little bit about Pinterest a few years ago, and it was all about pinning. Like there was the app called Tailwind that you had to use and you had to pin a lot, and I grew my Pinterest to 60,000 unique views a month, but it didn't tip anything into my business. Nobody clicked on any links, nobody visited my website. And then I just stopped because I was like, this is just information for information's sake. Like I don't need to be doing this. And this was when I was very new to business and just trying out different things around SEO and stuff. And so now I just feel like I want to be, you know, really focused and very time efficient and share on there what makes sense to share on there. I don't need to get thousands and thousands and thousands upon views a month, but it is possible in terms of the way that your pins situated my Pinterest. It went from sort of, you know, just a few hundred or whatever it was, right into the tens of thousands. I think it was like up to about 14,000 really quickly. And that must be because people are searching for the search terms that you put in. Is that right?
It is right. And it's also because they answer a question that the searcher has. So if you just put up a pin, for example, if you created your Substack and you just pinned it straight from Substack to Pinterest, that's great. That works fine. You might get a couple of clicks on that, but it's not really going to convert because it doesn't really answer a question. Whereas for you, we created pins for you about how Substack works. And it was really specific. So it was like how to use notes and how to grow and how you celebrated reaching 1,000 subscribers. Stuff like that. So it was specific. So they have put their search term in the search bar of what is Substack. Well, yours pops up immediately saying what is Substack. They're going to click on that because it answers their question.
Answers the question,
But it is about the keywords and the SEO and all that jazz as well. But it also needs to quickly answer their question.
So Sophie, shall we share your screen and you can talk through how you would set up so there's different types of pins, because you did like a video pin for me and then a board cover pin and then another pin. Is that right? 3 different pins. If I need to give you permissions, I will. Is it?
Let me request. It says you've disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, terrible of me. Right, okay. Who can share? Host only, all participants. Oh, that's weird. How do I change
that? I can do it now. Let me see.
Oh, can you? Oh, yeah. Yay, there we go.
Are you there? Are you with me?
Yes, yeah, got it, yeah.
Right.
Put my glasses back on. My daughter's been like hiding my glasses in the holiday house. So this morning I was like, Luna, where's mommy's glasses? And like she's had them like down, so they're like all scratched. It's just I'm gonna
Oh,
have to go to the opticians and just get sorted. I did have two pairs and she's lost a pair, and now this is the only pair and they're scratched,
these are
but
my only
I can
ones.
see.
I am like, do not touch my glasses. Yeah, I know what you mean. So yeah, so this is Claire's Pinterest, and we're on the saved bit here. So I'll just scroll down. You can have a look at what Pinterest looks like.
Inside of my brain. This is years and years and years of like kids' birthday parties,
But
home
that's what it's like, though,
renovations.
isn't it? Because
It's
they
everything.
answer your problem, don't they? I did it when we bought our first home together. I was like, I need to figure out how to decorate the living room. Let's go to Pinterest, or I
Yeah.
need to figure out what to, I don't know, because I use it for personally as well, like breastfeeding outfits.
Yeah.
You know,
Trying to find out where
yeah,
what you can
what
use and
works.
do.
So
I know it's
it's good.
great.
It is like being inside your brain, isn't it? It
Mm.
is so good. So yeah, this is basically what Substack is. So this is Claire's profile, and these are her boards, and she's got all sorts of different ones, as you can see here. So the ones that we worked on with the Substack growth. Did you already have Substack design tips, or did we do that?
No, so I just had a couple of pins that I hadn't put inside a board or anything, and it
Right.
was it
Yeah.
was the one where it was like a photo of a wooden chair swing in a garden, and I'd put some text over the top because I was also, yeah, that one, build partnerships on subs. I was also using those on LinkedIn as an experiment,
Yeah.
and I was publicizing the mailing list magic masterclass. So I was like, I wonder if I just do a pin, what will happen with them? So I gave those to you and said, one of my things is I like to try and help people feel like there's space and time. So nature comes in a lot, and I don't know whether I'm overcomplicating it. I just like, here's a lovely bench, guys, you know. And I was saying to you, like, maybe I just need an aesthetic design that is just saying exactly what it is, because I
Yeah.
think I give people maybe too much visual information. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did those ones, and then you took my brand and off you went.
Yeah, so this one that you did is fine, and that picture does encapsulate what you are and what you offer. You know,
Mm.
it is a lovely post. But then we was like, how can we? Because don't forget, like Pinterest, most people use it on their phone, so they're just like scrolling and scrolling, just like Instagram. So we need to be able to capture their attention. And if you're scrolling down and you see your lovely bench pin, you'll probably think it's about a garden.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
you'll think about it, you know, something nature inspired. It's not really how to build on Substack, because it's not really, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So we had a go at creating, although they are a little bit out there, we did have a play with the design afterwards, but we had a look at how to capture your audience. And your audience, what would you say, Claire? Would they mostly be women?
Yeah, so with Creatively Conscious, it was definitely mostly women who had a connection to creativity, connection to sort of the wholehearted living, maybe living life on their terms a bit more, self-employed, people that I'd met through kind of creative projects that I'd done. And
Yeah.
then when I started with the Substack tips, all of that went out the window, and loads of people were finding Creatively Conscious just because of the Substack tips. And that's why I changed it and made it its own thing, because I wanted to be welcoming to everybody, but I also wanted to keep Creatively Conscious sacred to me and my writing. And I didn't want to feel like I was bothering people with my personal writing, because it's really important to me to be able to have space for that. So I had to move everything over to Sparkle on Substack. And now it's really, really diverse. So people all over the world, men and women, younger people, people who are kind of in the last chapters of their life and are just looking for like to cut through all the noise, because it is a complicated platform. It's not an easy platform. We've come to it and we've grown with it. But Farah Storr said on a workshop that I was with her on Friday, it is a very complicated platform. And I think I forget that. So your advice around breaking it down, making it really clear, one thing at a time, has been super helpful as a reminder to that as well.
We do though, don't we? We're always so guilty of overcomplicating things. And the best way is just to simplify it. I always find it's best to kind of try and explain it to my 9-year-old. If she said, "What's Substack, mummy?" I'd be like,
Oh, that's a good,
Substack
yeah.
is this. But then obviously it's not for her, so I can elaborate a little bit. But if you've
Yeah.
got like the basic points, of what it is that she would understand, anyone will be able to pick it up. I always have that in the back of my mind. But yeah, so when we started then to create pins that was more likely to attract your audience, so we wanted like people on laptops, because that's what you're going to use Substack on, people who are writing, because there's a lot of journaling, there's a lot of, you know, mindfulness there, people creating. So that's how we then ended up with these sorts of pins like that, because they capture it better than your bench one. But that's fine, it works as well, but we just wanted to make it a little...
I think, and that's what I've learned massively. So when I look at those, what is difficult for me as a business owner is that none of those photos are me, but that's an up level. Like, I can get some professional photos taken that do that same job, and I can even create a Pinterest board of ideas to work with a professional photographer on that stuff. I think all of the professional photos that I've had have missed the mark because they're too artsy and not as specific as what I need. And now I see the ones that you've used and how well they've worked. I'm like, I just need to commission photos of me like that. And then for me, that would feel much more aligned. And I would use those instead, just because it feels really good then to have me in that, and then they kind of get to meet me first on Pinterest and then go to my YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, absolutely. But if you're like me, who hates being on pictures, who hates being on videos, this would be your worst nightmare. So for me to use stock images, it's perfect. I use Unsplash to get my stock images, but Canva has just loads and loads and loads that are all relevant. So you could go Claire's way and want it all to be on brand with you, your face, you know, professional shots. If, like me, you're happy to be like, I'm happy to do the content, I don't want my face there, then stock photos are absolutely fine. Just make sure you use like you have permission. So places like Canva and Unsplash you can download for free. Shall we talk about the different pins?
That would be good, because what we're seeing here is we're seeing some little numbers underneath the pins, and then we're seeing some different sizes of pins as well. So can you talk us through why different pins are different sizes and how you've set them up? Yeah,
so there's 4 different types of pins on Pinterest. The most common one will be your standard static pin. So it's just like this. It doesn't move, it doesn't do anything. It's a picture. You can have it just as a picture, you can have it just as text, or you can have, like we've done here, where you've got an image and text. So that's your standard one. Then we have a carousel pin, which is a bit like, you know, on Instagram, where you can gather, I think, is it up to 10 on Instagram photos that the user can scroll through? It's like this on Pinterest as well. So you can go through using the little arrows, and you can give a little bit more information like that. And then always use a call to action at the end, just to get them to then move over to where it is you want to drive traffic.
Did you say you can have 10 different ones to flick through, or is it more than 10?
I think it's just 5 on Instagram.
5
on Pinterest. It's 10 on Instagram, but I'm sure it's only 5.
That helps with the design, doesn't it? Because again, what I find really tricky is I can write long form, no problem, and I can talk till the cows come home on a video, but then trying to get it honed down into a 5 stages pin or a reel or even stories, I get so stuck with that stuff, and you're really, really good at it. You're limited. I get that. I completely get that. It's about taking out all the waffle and just having the key points. I've got plenty of waffle. No, that's really good. So that's the carousel post. And then we have a video pin, sorry. And when you say video pin, you expect, you know, the Instagram pointing and the dancing. It's not like that. Unless you want it to be like that, then that's absolutely fine. You could absolutely, Claire, record yourself like you would for an Instagram story and explain something. Like, you know, well, this pin, for example, I've celebrated 1,000 subscribers on Substack. Here's what I've learned so far. You could upload that straight to Pinterest because they're the same format, the same size. Or, like me, because I don't like to be in front of the camera, I like to create a video by animating text, and it's so simple.
so simple. You do not need to have your face front and center, pointing and dancing. You just need to animate the text. And how I do it is in Canva. You can go to Canva and you can select the text that you want to animate, and all you can do, like on this one here, is I highlighted this bit of text here and I got it to scroll in. I can just press animate, scroll, and that's all it is. It's so simple. Whereas that now becomes a video post, and then you get so many more impressions, because you know at the moment that video is so popular.
It's video, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And
so with those impressions, Sophie, does that mean just people that have seen it?
Yeah.
That what impressions are? Yeah. Okay.
So a lot, and then that'll be those who have like waited a minute and been like, oh, what's this? And they'll wait for
okay.
So it won't be those that have just like scrolled straight past it. It'll be they've pondered a little bit.
And I'm going to have a little check while you're talking as to how many views this video, because this links straight through to my YouTube, and this is my biggest viewed video since we've started working together. YouTube obviously acts as a search engine as well, so people are finding it via YouTube, but lots of people have clicked via Pinterest. This has had 21 pin clicks. That feels a lot to me for strangers. These people don't know me, they're just finding me, aren't they, on here?
That's it. Yeah.
So this is why we think it's really worth setting up your Pinterest, don't we? So this one it is. So it's had 234 views on Substack, that video now.
That's great. That's really good.
Yeah, and considering I've only got just over 100 subscribers on YouTube, like I'm not big on that platform. You know, I do think that this is contributing massively towards that, and this is a pin that people will just keep finding, right, if they type in the right things.
This is it, because unlike Instagram, I know I keep referencing Instagram,
but it's a good reference point.
It's a good reference. We know Instagram, we know how it works. So with Instagram, when you create something, you've got kind of like a very short window of time to get whatever it is that you've created a post about, for people to come engage with it, you know, do something about it. So if you're selling like candles, for example, and you create a post about candles, you've got a very small time for them to come over to you and then go to your website, or go to your profile and then go to your website and then find a candle. It's just like so many steps that they need to take, and they don't take it. And then after 15 minutes, half an hour, it's gone, it's lost. It's lost. Whereas a pin, this could be a 10-year-old pin that you could still be getting so many useful, you know, conversions from. It could be amazing for you even 10 years down the line, because it's still relevant. You know, it's like if you had a 10-year-old blog post about how to decorate your table at Christmas, it's still relevant because that's what people still want.
People still searching for that stuff.
People still in 10 years time going to wonder how you get to 1,000 subscribers on Substack. It's still relevant, and as long as you type in the right keywords, it will still be discoverable.
And what it's really enabled me to think, as somebody who's really passionate about being of service to other creatives on Substack, is what other content is useful. Like, are people searching how do you get to 200 subscribers? People do want to know, you know. It's like, whatever we've learned on social media, we need to kind of take a step back from that and go, you know what, it's all incremental. Like, what I learned from 0 to 200 is probably still really valuable to share with people. It's not all about these kind of big round numbers or anything like that. It's about craft and process, and it's a completely different platform. Because
people, the getting from 0 to 200 is so much harder than getting from, say, 500 to 1,000.
It is, you're right. It's so right. And that's exactly what I say in the video, in terms of the network effect. So we can see, so this is a video pin. So this is the third type of pin, and we can see that it just moves really quickly. It's a few seconds. You've animated it in Canva, and then it can live there and people are finding it. Great.
So when they scroll down, that'll just automatically play for them, and it grabs attention. It's really good. Now the next pin, I don't think I'll be able to show you it because it's an idea pin, and I don't think we've done many idea pins. Basically what an idea pin is it's like Instagram stories, but you have, and it's a bit like a carousel pin as well, where you can have up to 20 for idea pins, images of videos and then they just tap through. A bit like you would tap through, Instagram stories, but the maximum is 20. So
have you got them on yours, Sophie, or not?
I don't think I do.
You don't know. You've just done them for other people. It's a lot of content to produce, isn't it?
It is, and like you say, it's a lot to do just for one thing, just for one like print or one candle or one blog post. It's a lot of work, so I don't really do it, and that's my thing. But I'm like you say, I want to do the quickest point that's going to have max effect, and for me that might be a video, or it might be a static pin or a carousel pin, because that's going to work better for me. So idea pins are there, and if they do prove useful for you, then absolutely use them, but just experiment with the different ones as well, because you might find that videos are better for you.
And the videos have been working better for me in terms of the statistics and the numbers, I think, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think,
So
that's definitely higher than the views on, I think we saw that pretty quickly, didn't we? With the, because we played around with an aesthetic. I sent Sophie some of my brand colours, and then actually I felt like I wanted it a little bit more neutral, and so we moved and just used the pink as the highlight, which I think is much more akin to the Substack aesthetic that I have. And I was like, let's just leave them on there, because because again, it's not about me, is it? It's about what people are finding eye-catching and what people are attracted to. So I need to put some of that perfectionism around the visual down, because it's tripped me up for a long time. So I'm like, it's fine, like, let's just leave them up.
This is the first pin that we created, the first video pin we created, and I think this happened sort of like after an hour. It already had hundreds and hundreds of impressions and so many saves, and I remember messaging you afterwards being like, have you seen this blowing up? So that was the first one, and then we started to tweak the aesthetics of it and be a bit more neutral. Now these smaller square ones, you don't have to use these are not a normal pin, if this makes sense, because I am so painfully organized, and I like things I like things neat and tidy. I like to have board covers, and you do not have to do this whatsoever. It is literally just my personal preference. It makes no difference whatsoever to conversions or anything like that. It's just how I like to do it. So if you look at my Pinterest for my English print co company, you can see that I've used board pins, board cover pins. So you can just
that's just a pin that you've created, and then you've told Pinterest that's the cover of the board, please.
It just, to me, that looks a bit more neat and tidy.
Yeah, and you can see at a glance, the mind's like the inside of my brain, you can see at a glance, these are all your topics. So you've probably got, similar number of topics that you search for as I have, but you've just organized it in a way that is easy for you to find things. Easy for other people who maybe, if they've liked the way that you've found some pins, then they'll find like another pin that you've got as well. Amazing.
That's it. So if they clicked on my profile and scrolled down, they'd be like, oh, so this contains this contains that. It's a bit more, they can see straight away, because if you have a look at sort of, let's find one like this one, entrance hallway inspiration on my print company Pinterest, it cuts it off if it's too long, whereas you can see the full title there.
So
it's also a good idea to have it like that, so that you can kind of see what else, what the rest of the title, because it cuts it off.
And I like how it's like your life as a business owner and your life as a mom as well, and it's like it's everything in one. So I feel like it makes it really relatable, like who you are, whereas sometimes those business accounts on Instagram, they can be quite cold, can't they? You don't really get to know the person behind the business. And I think for companies of one, it's really nice, isn't it, to just give everybody that a little bit more aesthetic about that. Okay, so that's cool. So we would just make a pin. Is there a certain size that you have to make those, Sophie, so that they all fit? No,
not really. I use a Instagram template on Canva. It's just a square one, but it's easy. But going back to what you said about it being like an inside look at my life, it is, because I am the brand, and usually as a company of one or even two, you are the brand, aren't you? So this is me. I am breastfeeding, so I need a couple of breastfeeding outfits. I want to change my hair. I've got a couple of hairstyle. This is me. This is what I do. So if they come to this and they say, "Oh, Sophie creates prints," yeah, but she's also really into living room inspiration and decorating her house, or being getting my house ready for autumn and having that autumn aesthetic, or she's quite organized. She likes a routine. It's a real, you can get to know me a lot.
I can see that from a snapshot, in a much it's much more easy to see than it would be if you landed on someone's Instagram page. I feel like this combination of text and visuals is really super helpful. Great.
It's still on brand for me, so that's why it's a good mix, because I obviously do my Simple and Calm Substack, but my prints are calm, minimalist, simplistic prints as well. So all of this is still on brand. You'd expect to see that. Now, if I had like I don't know, a Manchester United board, they'd be like, "What's going on here?"
Not really relevant.
But this is all relevant to me and my brand and my
who
business.
you are as a person. So a week or so ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I set up a couple of pins, not in the right way, just in a like, okay, we can use these to talk about in the workshop. So the last two that I set up, that was a lovely cafe that I went to in London. And then when I hit 2,000 subs, I thought, oh, okay, like I'll just do a pin about that. Now, I don't know anything about setting pins up other than here's a picture, here's some things that I've got to say about it. And I've done these so that you can troubleshoot and give us advice about what I could have done differently, like if I wanted more people to take an action or to pin this pin, or things like that.
So let's take this cafe picture. It's a lovely picture, but it could mean anything. There's not really telling your audience what it is, what they're going to get by clicking on your link. It's just a lovely picture, which would be really suitable for Instagram rather than Pinterest. What I would do here is I would do a text overlay that said, I don't know, you could do 10 favorite spots in London as a creative to work.
Or maybe I could do the one that I've just done, 7 tips for well-being at your workstation, because that is quite well-being-ish sort of inspiring cafe, and I do talk about cafe spaces and stuff in the post, couldn't I? So I could change it to link to that post. You could do. That would be, I get what you mean. That would be much better, because then, but have the text overlay as well of saying that, because then they know instantly what they're getting, because remember, they're just scrolling. We need to grab attention quick, and they kind of just get lost. If they search for places to work in London, that wouldn't give them any information, because there'd be other pins saying top 10 places to work or top 5 places to work, and this is like, do you know what I mean? It'd be lost in the noise. So you need to make that clickable, to grab their attention, get them over to be like, oh, what's and then see how I've put hashtags in the description. Is that right or wrong?
So I like to bob some hashtags in pin descriptions. They're not really useful in board descriptions anymore. It becomes a bit spammy. So just a few. You don't need to go mad. You can do, like you've done 3 here, you could do up to sort of 5 or 8, but they need to be really relevant. So don't just put hashtag blessed or hashtag do you know what I mean? It needs to be something relevant and that they're going to use just for your whatever it is that you're posting about. I would change this title to something a bit more, like I said, 5 places to work in London. It answers a problem for them. This doesn't really answer a question. So if you think of them coming, remember that Pinterest is a search engine, and people come to Google if they want an answer to something. They come to Pinterest if they want an answer to something. They'll go to YouTube if they need an answer to something. So doing that in the title with keywords that are relevant to your business, what they're using, is going to make the most impact.
So what I think I'll do then is I'll I'll leave this on, but I'll do another pin. And then when we do the post about the workshop, I can say, okay, like this is what I change it to. And then you can even critique that one as well, because I'm sure there's more that I can learn. But yeah, answering a question is a massive light bulb for me. Like that really helps.
Yeah. And you might be sat there thinking, I don't answer a question. I literally write a Substack about simple living. But that is, somebody out there will want to know how to live simply. They'll want to know how you spend your mornings.
Yeah.
They want to know how you'd prioritize self-care rather than doing X, Y, and Z, or how you live slowly but work as well, how you incorporate. So you might not think that you have a problem, an answer to a problem, but you do. I promise you do.
Yeah, there's loads there, isn't there? So the recent note that I did over on Substack was about desk space and what desk space people have got, what they're using. Are they using kitchen tables? Have they got like a beautiful desk and that sort of thing? And it was kind of the anti-Instagram aesthetic. It was like, no, like, let's be real. Like, tell me what you're actually doing, like what's working for you, like the things that you're doing. And with Pinterest, are we aspiring to a beautiful aesthetic with clear text like we might be over on Instagram, or can we be more real? Like, which one is it?
No, be real. Be real, because you know, that's what's going to attract them, isn't it? That's what's going to attract them to you. And if they're not attracted to your realism, they're not really your right people, are they?
Yeah.
So
so with that note, I haven't shared my workspaces yet, but I said that I would follow up and do that when I got back. I'm really interested in how I might curate that, because what I'm actually saying is I move workspaces a lot, and that's what the post will end up being about, around the different places that I work. And so the invite to people is around shifting up space for your well-being. So not just locking yourself to a desk all day, to, you know, move around, shift it up, all of that sort of thing. And the problem will be probably something like if people are feeling either uninspired, stiff, you know, just sort of bored, like it's trying to say, look, I've got 4 different spaces that I work in and this is what works for me, but I don't actually have a desk. So
you could title that, like, you know, 4 places where I find creativity that's not at my desk.
Yeah, got you.
You can have other people in the same situation. And don't forget that we live in smaller and smaller houses nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of people do have space for a desk, so it might be the sofa, it might be the kitchen table, you know, it might be anywhere that you can work from. I work in bed when I'm feeding William. Do you know, sometimes I'm like trying to breastfeeding baby and my laptop's up here, so
trying to work that through. Great. Okay, that's fab, that's super helpful. And then the other one that I did that was about Substack. Now I did this in a way where I brought back in some of that nature, and now I've listened to you again, I'm like, oh, I've done that wrong. But it was like I just wanted to try something and get something out to try and keep the momentum, because you'd got my momentum so high. I was like, oh, well, I'll just do something before we work together again. So I've done this, and it's obviously had not very many impressions at all, but it has had 5 clicks. But that's not outgoing clicks to the YouTube, is it? That's just like clicks on the pin.
I don't think we can see the stats here unless I go into the back end of it, and I don't really want to go in the back end in case it shows your private stuff.
Right, okay, yeah, no problem.
I don't know,
but it's not doing much really, is my point.
So this would be a good pin if you had an audience already built up on Pinterest and you kind of wanted to nurture them, because they know that this is your pin, this is what you love, you live on the Northumberland Coast, they know you, that you're just nurturing them. But if you want to reach other people who don't know you, I would say to scrap this image and just change it to something that's a bit more,
get that laptop back on.
But not always. They just want to be, because like this could be, without looking at the text, it could be about the shells that you found on the beach, or
or holiday, you know, stuff.
I would just make it a little bit more relevant to being on Substack. And Substack is, you could have a picture of you on your phone on the beach. You could have a picture of you, you know, you could take your laptop to the beach if you wanted to. It could be you. So you could do it because that's where you want to work, or that's where you find creativity. Just make it so that it's a bit more relevant to what it is that you're doing. So for you, a bit more relevant to Substack.
And then the text that I've written, is that text good enough, or in the actual description, is the description text where you can put, oh, you can only put less. So I must have just written that. Hear more about how I've grown my Substack community from 1,000 to 2,000 subs using the Substack network. Yeah. So would you unpack that more in that description?
Yeah, I would. So going to the actual pin itself, you've got this lovely, title. That's fine, that works. But it's blue, and it's the background's blue, the sky's blue, the sea's blue. I would make that stand out a bit more.
Yeah.
Over that image.
Yeah.
This is great because it stands out. You can clearly see it. But if you're scrolling, that might just get lost, that blue bit there.
Yeah, got it.
So yeah, just make it stand out a bit more. Tips to help you grow on Substack, perfect. It's simple, it's straight to the point. They know what they're getting. That is perfect. And it has your website on it, which I always liked it. Either your website or wherever it is you're sending them to. So it could be a YouTube, you could have at Creatively Conscious and have like the little YouTube symbol, the little YouTube icon, so that
so they know they're going to leave and head over to YouTube. Yeah. Okay.
As for the description, I would include more, because
more text.
The more text you use, the more chances that you have to use keywords.
Okay, the keyword thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
so
good
if you've
for
only
searching.
so what you've only got 2 sentences there, you're not going to get a lot of keywords in there.
No. So more like a sort of 5, like a paragraph. Yeah. Okay, got your 5
Let me see one that I've created for you. Let's have a look, and you can see the difference. Can't do it. It changes there. So it's a little bit more. You see, a bit more of a paragraph. And at the end of that, I've got a call to action, watch now, and I've got a couple of relevant hashtags. Yeah. So remember not to keyword stuff. You might have heard that from like Instagram, or if you sell on Etsy, it's really not good to be like hashtag Substack, Substack tips, Substack blog. Do you know, straight away as your description, you need to talk to the person rather than a robot.
Okay, got you. Yeah.
Authentic. It needs to sound like you're talking to them rather than AI or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I've written, are you planning on using Substack's new inbuilt social media platform, Notes? Well, before you do, watch my Substack Notes guide on my YouTube channel, where I explain exactly what Substack Notes is, how to use it, whether or not you have to use Notes to go on Substack. Watch now. So they know that when they click through to YouTube, they know that what they're going to get. If they're coming to this pin and they're like, I'm not really bothered about Notes, I just wanted to know about Substack chat, don't need to look at it, they can go off of it straight away.
So yeah, clarity is really important, so that you can. And then obviously in terms of follows, I know it's not a social network, but people can follow you on Pinterest and obviously make sure that they see your pins. So it says that I've got 208 followers. Am I trying to convert people into followers, or does that not matter because it's a search engine? So it's like I'll just go to Google and I'll search it. Like I'll just go to Pinterest and I'll search it. Would people be more likely to follow me here, or is that just silly because they'll go to Substack and they'll go to YouTube and subscribe over there? Like, what would be the reason someone would subscribe? I guess for me, like, what would make them do that?
It's not really that important. Let me ask you a question. You follow 84 people. How often do you click on your following and go and look at their profile?
Yeah, no, I don't do that. I think I did it, I followed the people that said they had Substack, from Substack to Pinterest, because I thought that was just nice in terms of like supporting other people. And then the rest is like historical stuff, so maybe people that have been really inspiring, but I'm much more curated now. So if I follow somebody who I learn from, I'll just follow them in one place, usually email, and then I don't have them on social media because I just find it's like, I've already seen that on email, I don't need to see social media as well, so that's personal. But no, not really. I think part of it was I thought I had to sort of build it up so that I could find the right things that I wanted on there, but actually it works so well as a search engine. It doesn't really matter, does it?
No, the metrics are there if you want to use them. If you want to follow people, you can follow people. And sometimes you might follow someone and think, oh, I'm going to come back to them, but chances are, if you're on Pinterest and you want to follow someone, they'll have created a pin that you could save to a board rather than
put it on the board. Save. Does
that make sense? Because it's the content that you're wanting answers to. So
Yeah.
following them doesn't really help. It does help. Their stuff, their pins that they create will come up on your home feed. But do you use it where you just search down, or do you go to your Pinterest and put in a search term?
Yeah, I do scroll. So I've just had a lovely time scrolling when I've not been, because I've not had Instagram on my phone for a little while. I've put it back on now, and I've just gone on for like a nice little scroll on Pinterest.
Scratch the itch.
Yeah, just to sort of do that. And then mainly I go on there to search. I do delete the app a lot from my phone because it takes a lot of storage, and I've got one of the older iPhones. So I tend to just go on specifically when I need something and then delete it. For storage space, really. Okay, that's super helpful. So in terms of what I've got at the top there, Sophie, you helped me with this. Now, I've been very clear on, I'm just going to use the same profile photo across all of my different platforms. So that's my profile photo on Instagram, on Substack, it's here as well. And then we decided that we would try out just having really quite an attention-grabbing headline all about Substack, because we were working together to create a load of Substack pins, and it just was cutting through the confusion. I don't just do Substack, I don't work for them, but I did, for the purposes of this, I did want to have that on there just to try it out, and it's worked well, hasn't it?
Yeah, so it's a good, think of it as like your shop banner. If you had a physical shop, that would be the banner over the door. So that explains, before they even go into the shop, what it is that you do. That's all it is. So they know that if they click on you, they're going to expect some posts about Substack, and they'll probably get a little bit of, lovely seaside shots too.
And then in the copy underneath that, where we've got engagement consultant, blah, 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 we did a little bit more, didn't we? Because you kept that in, which was from my original Pinterest, which is about also, features pins from, and then the other things that are like more lifestyle things. Great.
Yeah. So they know exactly what they're getting, and then you've also features pins from. They know but people don't expect you just to have a Pinterest that's just about Substack. It's not really like a business where they'd go and only expect to see what it is that you make or sell or services. They know that Pinterest is everything about you. It's the little bits that you like. It's what you want to decorate your house like. It's like I said at the beginning, it's more of an in-depth look inside your brain. It's who you are, and that's what's going to help. So yeah, don't worry that you're not just putting Substack posts on there. That is absolutely fine.
That's good. And then it's obviously front and center. So I am going to, in the next little chapter, play around with maybe sharing some of my other Substack content on there, working with Sophie on that, and then learning Pinterest. So I'm not in a rush to learn Pinterest, because I'm probably at capacity in terms of content that I'm creating on the internet. Sophie's very good at it. So I'm just going to give it to Sophie and be like, okay, I've had a look. I think these 2 Substack posts could work as Pinterest pins. This is what I've done in terms of Substack teaching and growth. And we're going to just try the 2 side by side and just see what happens as part of that. For me, it's all about getting clearer on what people are searching for and how I can help them, because as a creative business, it's been very, very difficult to convert people into paying customers for my business unless I've had loads and loads of time spent with them on Instagram, or I've met them in real life. And what I want to do is move towards nurturing people through the stuff that I've put out in the world and having them buy from my business. Ultimately, that's what I want them to do. I want them to buy from my business. I want to be of service to them, and the 2 things can work hand in hand.
Of course they can. Yeah. And all it is you need to create pins that are going to attract them. You just need to create a pin that says, this is what I do, this is what you're going to get from it. Here's the link.
The link, great. And so we had some questions from other people about what they would like to use Substack for. Some people are getting amazing amounts of impressions. I don't know about clicks and that sort of thing, but I've not had a chance to read through them properly. And also I wouldn't really know the answers. So we've got Sophie, she's gonna go through, she's grouped together some of the things that people have asked, and then in the follow-up blog post that we do, we'll share more and try and go into more depth and try and answer more questions as well as we go. But is there any that you want to start with, Sophie? Any that make sense, that kind of cover things that we haven't already chatted about?
Yeah, so I've picked a few, and I won't go into too much detail, but I'll just quickly try and answer their questions. So I think it was you, Claire, actually, who said, should we comment or chat on people's pins? You don't have to. You really don't have to. It's not a social media platform. If there's some detail, say like there's a pin about how to create paneling in your living room, and you really want to know what colour they've painted the paneling, then by all means you can do that. But that I would expect that, if that is a blog post, to be answered in the blog post. So you really don't need to chat about it. The answers should be in the blog post, if that makes sense. So no, you don't need to chat to them. It's not social media. When to use templates and when to literally pin an image from a post. So I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, where I would say to always, if you can, use templates like we did with your pins, Claire, because then you can fully optimize them. You can go and search for keywords. You can put a proper title in there that's going to attract your audience. You can create a pin with an image and text overlay, or turn it into a video. All of that can be done by creating an individual pin. Whereas if you go to Substack and you click pin, that's it. There isn't anything else. And if you've used, because I do, if you've used a picture that's not really relevant to what it is, it's just a nice looking picture, when you go to Substack, Pinterest, it's not going to be like relevant. It'll be a little bit like, I'm really sorry, it'll be a little bit like your
no, that's good. That's
window.
why I did it. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know enough about why it was wrong. And this is it. And I also did one of the media assets. I posted that on Pinterest before I started working with you, again, just as an experiment. And I can completely see now why it's so important to create the pin, within the template that works. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I'm wondering if my old pins could be hindering me in some way. Is it all about new content? So no, it's not all about new content, because like we touched on earlier, all of your old content, if it's still relevant, is still going to be searchable. It's still going to be discoverable. If you've started out selling candles, but now you're a personal trainer, it might not be relevant. You might have closed that website. Those links won't work. So they're not going to be relevant, but it's not going to hinder you. It's not. You don't have to then go through and delete 20,000 pins. You really don't have to. If you are really, really pivoting and it's completely different, just set up a new a new Pinterest. Oh, can't talk. I'm mixing them all together.
It's like, which one? I'm just stopping that screen so I can listen to you properly. I've got that video like scrolling on there. No, don't be sorry. I just thought, for me, but also for everybody else, we've seen Pinterest now. We're just listening to Sophie. We'll lean in.
So it's not going to hinder you. If it is completely different, then just make a new Pinterest from what it is. I was thinking, I don't know if it will be helpful. I'd love to hear some feedback from those who watch this, because I only have a Pinterest for my English Print Co. Business. I don't actually have one for my Simple and Calm Substack. So if it would be interesting, I could walk you through sort of like a 28-day challenge maybe of how I would set up a Pinterest for my Substack, how I would create pins going forward. If that's helpful, I can absolutely do that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So what else have we got? How to actually drive traffic from Pinterest to Substack. So create pins, pin them to relevant boards. Like you've got a board that says Substack design tips, Substack growth tips. So it's very specific.
I think I've just got those two right now, haven't I? And I probably need to zoom out and think if there's any other boards to create within the Substack framework. I'll have a think about that.
Have a look, go back to your target audience and think of what questions they're asking and what you need. You could answer them, because I'm sure they'll have lots of questions. I mean, you could even create a Substack thread post, couldn't you? Saying, I'm going to do this. What questions do you have about Substack? And you can just create boards about that, or pins. So make sure your pins and boards are optimized. So make sure that you're using good titles, a good description. Make sure your branding is good and it attracts the people and that it helps them. So if you write a Substack about simple living like I do, I could create a pin it to a relevant board. You know, it might be morning routines, simple morning routines, whatever. But also it's a really good idea to pin other people's pins to your board. So it's not just your work, your pins. You can just have your pins, that's absolutely fine. But I like to create a sort of like, if I'm thinking of a board, I want to help my user or pinner to really get immersed in that feeling, especially with slow living. So I will have maybe like a blog post about slow living, or I might have a print, that's going to be relevant to the room that I'm talking about. So it might be a nice minimalistic print, but then I might also have a candle there from a different business. I might have a nice mug that I'm going to put a cup of tea in.
Got you.
I might have a throw. I might have, like, somebody else might have said, done a pin about the top 5 books that they're going to read this season. And that all together creates a feeling. So once they're inside my board, they've got all of these little, you know, pins that they can use to create that feeling. But I wouldn't post anybody else's slow living blog. That needs to be the main focus for me, if that makes sense. If you create candles, you don't want to then pin other candle makers' candles, because as much as you might like them, they might be your friend. You don't want to drive traffic to them. You want the traffic to come to you.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah.
And I think that might be it. But if there's any more follow-up questions that people have,
we can answer them in the comments, can't we? Yeah. I think that it's about balancing out, isn't it? How much time to spend investing in Pinterest as a business owner. And for me, this is why I wanted to work with Sophie, because I very clearly understood quickly that she knew what she was doing on the platform, and I'm just flailing around. And Sarah Fay over at Writers at Work would say the same thing. So she spent nearly 2 years not growing at all on Substack, and now she teaches very specifically how you're going to get, how you're going to grow on Substack. And same with me, I just wanted to share what I'd learned on the platform. So I think in terms of when you're deciding what you want to share and how you want to share it, you can experiment. Obviously, Sophie's given some lead into how to set up pins and all that sort of thing, and you can go on Canva. But if it's tripping you up, if you're finding it too difficult, that's when you need to outsource. And if you're finding that, say, Instagram has kind of died a bit for you, like it did for me, or you don't want to use Twitter, why not experiment with Pinterest? Why not see if you can drive people over to what you're doing on Substack, to what you're doing in your business, to your website? Because it's given us quite a lot of opportunities. And to be honest, I think Pinterest always has done. And for some reason, there's been a block for us around growth and connections and what that actually means. And what Sophie's saying there is it's not about those followers, it's about how well a pin's performing. So we should be looking at those analytics as business owners, rather than thinking about followers or kind of subscriber numbers or saves in that same way.
Yeah, and it's not about constantly creating new content. You're not going to think, oh, I need to go and take a picture of this now. I need to do this. I need to do this. It's not about that. You can, for my English print company, Pinterest, I can't tell you the last time I created a print, but I still get, how many do I get? I still get
150, wasn't it? 150,000. Yeah.
So it's
all still working for you.
Yeah, because like I say, it's long term. People are still going to discover those old pins. You don't have to keep showing up, which is such a breath of fresh air.
It is, yeah. And I think in terms of the way that we are working on Substack and what we're all loving about it, it's spacious in the same way that Substack is, isn't it? We can create that pin, like you said, mine might stick around for 10 years or more. Who knows how things are going to pan out, but that actually feels really nice to do. So to go back to the very, very beginning, I do have brand colors and text, 3 different types of text for my brand that I set up in Canva. So I've got the professional Canva account, and I shared those with Sophie, and then Sophie was able to like play around and say to me, is it this or is it this? Like, which way around do you see it working for you and for your brand? But also I was able to learn from her, because one of my big things was tripping me up. Connecting people to nature all the time is confusing them. So I had to be really clear and mindful that Pinterest is about grabbing attention on the scroll, but also about being really clear from the off about what the pin's about, so that's a bit different. So I learned a lot in listening to Sophie in that workshop, and I've learned a lot through this process, and I'm not in a rush with any of it. I just want to invest time, work with Sophie, test and adjust, play around with things, think about what might be a good strategy for my other 2 publications, and just see how it all pans out. So yeah, it's been really good. Thank you, Sophie.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And I just feel like just give it a try, because what have you got to lose? You don't have to constantly create loads and loads of pins, or it doesn't have to be really taxing. So just give it a try, but give it a try for a good 3 months, because Pinterest is a long-term.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to get like immediate results straight away after the first day. You probably won't get that. So give it a good chunk of time to test it. If by the end of those 3, 5 months, 6 months, you really don't like it, it's not converting, you do not have to do it. I'm not saying you have to be on Pinterest, you have to do this, you have to do that. Just see what's right for you, experiment, and then.
And I think for the people that were coming to the thread and having the chat on Substack notes, they were saying, I'm burnt out with Instagram. That was the topic, that's where it came from. It was like, oh God, I've got to go and subscribe to lots of different people over there, and actually, sorry, I'll just shut that door. Right, they got it. Yeah, it was like playing the Instagram game and it not working, and them going, oh, maybe Pinterest is the place that I could spend more time. So hopefully that has scratched the itch and kindled the curiosity of it all. We'll stop the recording there, but we'll be around in the comments of this post, in this video, and hopefully it's been helpful and you're up for giving it a go. Thanks, Sophie.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, and I'll see you soon.
See you soon.